The Food and Drug Administration are ignoring their own experts when it comes to issuing fourth booster shots. If they're ignoring their own experts, whose experts are they listening to? What's the bloody plan here? Hey, you 5.5 million awakening wonders. Welcome. Thanks for joining us on this journey. Together, unified, we can create new realms of consciousness, new systems. I'm sure there's all sorts of things we can do. Today, we're going to be talking about the FDA, that's the Food and Drug Administration, who regulate the pharmaceutical industry. Of course, you know that. Now, apparently, there's a little bit of at least conversation about the efficacy of fourth boosters. Yeah, fourth booster shots, where the FDA are overriding the information that some of their own experts are providing. Hey, if you want to come see me live, you can. There's a link in the description. There's only a few tickets left in a couple of places, but it's a great show. I'd love you to come if you can. If you're not in the country, get over here for God's sake. And at the end, I'm going to show you where my mailing list is. You can click on that to receive a weekly bulletin where I can talk about stuff that I wouldn't talk about here. And if you're not a subscriber to the channel yet, please subscribe. Only half of you are. Now let's find out what's going on in your country, America, if you are an American or if you live there, with the FDA shutting down its own experts. Why would you do that? If you're going to treat your experts like that, you don't deserve an expert. So this is written by Dr. Macquarie, professor at the Johns Hopkins School of Medicine and author of The Price We Pay, What Broke American Healthcare and How to Fix It. And it's in the Wall Street Journal. So direct your lawyers that way. The Food and Drug Administration last week authorised Americans 50 and over to get a fourth COVID vaccine dose. Some of the FDA's own experts disagree with the decision, but the agency simply ignored them. Excuse me, we disagree with that decision. Hello, the decision. Eric Rubin, editor-in-chief at the New England Journal of Medicine, what does he know? Sits on the advisory committee. He told CNN last month that he hadn't seen enough data to determine whether anyone needs a fourth dose whose immune system isn't seriously deficient. Hello? Another committee member, Cody Meisner, agrees. Dr. Meisner, chief of pediatric infectious diseases at Tufts Children's Hospital, what do they know? Told me that a fourth dose is an unanswered scientific question for people with a normal immune system, but an answered question for people with pharmaceutical companies that have to make money. A third member of the committee, Paul Offit of the Children's Hospital of Philadelphia, told The Atlantic that he advised his 20-something son to forego the third shot, which the FDA recommends for everyone 12 and over. Hello! At the crux of the broad opposition to second boosters is the recognition of B and T cells, which public health officials have long ignored. They talk only about antibody levels, which tend to decline in the months after vaccination. B and T cells activated by the primary vaccine series or an infection and augmented by a single booster in older patients are highly and durably effective at preventing serious illness from COVID. So in the words of that person, who I assume is some sort of medical expert, the presence of B and T cells means that you could forego further vaccinations. That's not me, that's that person. I don't work in an hospital, I work here, in this hat. An additional vaccine dose induces a fleeting high in antibody levels. Still, sometimes that's as good as it gets, offering only mild and short-lived protection against infection. What are we boosting here? Immunity or profits? Two top FDA officials quit the agency in September, complaining of undue pressure to authorise boosters. People that actually work at the FDA are leaving because they're being pressurised. So that's not objectivity. That's not follow the science, is it? What about the whole way through this complex situation? Follow the science, shut your mouth, do as you're told. The people were talking about that B and T cell stuff ages ago, and they were regarded as tin hat wearing lunatics. And I would never wear a tin hat. Not but I got this guy. Marion Gruber, former director of the Office of Vaccine Research Review, what does she know? And her deputy, Philip Krauss, later wrote about the lack of data to support a broad booster authorization. So, right, if there's a lack of evidence, that means they either have some sort of hunch or intuition. No, I don't rely on science. I use my crystals. Or is there another reason you can think of where selling more of something would be better than selling less of something? Oh, it's like Beautiful Mind. Oh, wait a second. Selling more of something would mean, what would it? If I could sell more, that would be, more money! Hours after the FDA authorised the fourth dose, the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention gave its formal approval to the move, also without convening its external vaccine experts. Director Rochelle Walensky asserted that the additional doses are safe, but neither the CDC nor the National Institutes of Health have made a priority of studying vaccine complications. Why would that be? Why wouldn't you study vaccine complications if you're in the vaccine business? If you're recommending that people take vaccines, wouldn't the study of vaccine complications be right up there at the top of your priorities? Health agencies rely on messy and incomplete data from their clunky website. Don't use a clunky website in 2022 called VARS, or Vaccine Adverse Event Reporting System, where some patients report their own possible vaccine complications. When citizens inquire about vaccine complication rates, public health officials point to the significant limitations of their own method of tracking them. So it seems like it's easy to get data that supports a particular view, not so easy to get data that contradicts it. Why would it be difficult to compile the data around vaccine complications? Does it seem that there's a prioritization of getting data that leads to being able to use a product and less diligence when capturing data that might lead to not using a product? That's a question for you to answer in the comments below. Whenever we talk about this subject, I have to make clear to you, it's necessary for me to do it, that I have no opinion on whether or not you have a vaccine, don't have a vaccine, what you do with your body. I'm not an expert. I've got no skin in the game, got no dog in that race. And to be absolutely candid, there's people that work here at our organisation with a variety of opposing views on vaccines and vaccine health and vaccine policy and vaccine mandates and all that stuff, things that we wouldn't be able to plainly talk about because regulatory policy prohibits it. But one of the things that's levelled at people like me, Jimmy Dore, Joe Rogan, is that we're anti-vaxxers, that we're anti-vax. But I actually don't mind what you do. I don't think it's my job to give you an opinion on that matter, actually. What I think is important is when scientists and members of the FDA and high-ups at hospitals and in the pharmaceutical industry have concerns, when data becomes available that conflicts with the dominant narrative, I think that information should be made broadly available and should be commonly discussed. Even, and let me be clear, if you were pro-vaccine, surely if your job was to get as many people vaccinated as possible, you would want to say, this is everything we know at the moment. We still believe the best thing is for you to get vaccinated. Now, because that wasn't happening, that heightened suspicion, cynicism and doubt. Because the focus was about condemning people that weren't vaccinated or condemning people that wanted to have the conversation, I believe that greatly exacerbated the tension, suspicion and cynicism. So here in this article, when it talks about vaccine complications and the complex reporting of it and the inability to capture that data, when it talks about the recommendation of a fourth dose being doubted by members of the FDA and members of the scientific profession, this information should be discussed so that you and I and everybody can come to our own conclusions. What I don't believe in, and what I'm happy to express an opinion on very plainly, is I don't think some centralised body should tell everyone what to do without letting people talk about it or have access to all of the information. Because that, for me, is a form of tyranny. The narrative is changing. New conversations are happening. Sometimes it seems like people don't even want to talk about this stuff anymore, and sometimes I wonder why that might be. But what's important to me is to be certain that the sharing of information, transparency, and entrusting us to make our own decisions about our own lives is absolutely vital, without shame, blame, and condemnation, particularly when it seems like, based on the evidence here, that there is reason for at least conversation. While the FDA has approved fourth doses quickly, it's also been sitting for months on ample data supporting two new COVID vaccines. Novavax and Covaxin use traditional vaccine technology in contrast with the mRNA shots from Pfizer and Moderna. So why is that? Why is that not being openly and transparently discussed? Why are some vaccines okay and favourable and other vaccines not? That's another interesting area for discussion. But the FDA hasn't acted on Novavax's January 31st application for emergency use, and it rejected Covaxin twice, once for adults and once for children. So again, I don't know because I only know what I'm reading here. But it seems that if the intention was solely the health of a population and the individuals within that population, that you would consider and discuss all possible solutions and all possible medications. You wouldn't prioritise some over others. I can think of other reasons why you might prioritise some over others, financial, and perhaps some even more dubious than that. If there's not open discussion and transparency, you start to contemplate what the reason is for the lack of transparency. We don't need another vaccine, says Anthony Fauci. We don't need another hero. We don't need another vaccine, says Fauci. That's what he told India's News Nation in in December. We've got enough vaccines. I wondered if you were ever going to say that, to be honest. Trust in public health is at an all-time low. When agencies bypass their own experts, it only reinforces the perception that health policy is driven by groupthink and not politics. Yeah, you can't ignore your own experts. If you're going to ignore that expert, you don't deserve to have them. Here's some information about the FDA, which might give you cause to question their objectives, their agenda, and the way they're run. The FDA has moved from an entirely taxpayer-funded entity to one increasingly funded by user fees paid by manufacturers that are being regulated. So I suppose that would be a reason why you might prioritise some vaccines over others. Maybe. I don't know. I don't know that. Today, close to 45% of its budget comes from these user fees that companies pay when they apply for approval of a medical device or drug. So nearly half. Interesting. So that might influence the relationships they have with these companies. I don't know that. I don't know that. Changes in more recent years have also increased the number of standard new drug applications approved for the first time round by the FDA from 38% in 2005 to 61% in 2018. So it used to be harder to get a drug approved. But since the industry's been funding it themselves, one of the wacky little consequences is that it's easier to get a drug approved, which will, I suppose, benefit people that make drugs. Wow, what a coincidence. Oh, I've got a conspiracy theory. If you fund a regulatory body and your business is dependent on actually getting drugs out into the marketplace, wouldn't it be weird if we suddenly started, approving drugs more easily? Sorry, wake up, Jimmy! You're out of your mind! In diseases where there are not many medication options for patients, 89% of new drug applications were approved first time around. We don't have any drugs for this. Yeah, let it through. Most recently, the COVID-19 pandemic has seen the FDA provide emergency use authorization for potential treatments in a matter of weeks, not months. They've sped up the process. It's become a slicker operation. Pfizer recently announced that its COVID-19 vaccine bought in $37 billion last year, making it easily the most lucrative medicine in any given year in history. Do you think that corporations that exist in order to make a profit are impacted by opportunities to make profit? Do you think if they fund their regulatory body, that could lead to complications? These are all just questions. I have no opinion. Comments below. Pfizer spent $11 million lobbying the federal government, including Congress, in 2020. Now, you might be the most pro-vax person in the world. You might credit it with saving your grandma or many of your family members or even your own life. Who cares what anybody thinks about vaccines? What I would invite you to think about is this stuff. Whatever this stuff is, it ain't nothing, is it? It's something. And if you can't hold that something in your head with something else, then you're not going to be able to participate in reality in a meaningful way. You're just going to be herded around from one idea to the next, some little raindrop of reality blown around breezily by whatever ideology is taking control of your consciousness that day. And that's not what I want for you. I want freedom for you, even if we disagree with each other, especially if we disagree with each other. But that's just what I think. Let me know what you think in the comments below. You help us along this journey. We're doing this together. Let us know what your sources are. Let us know what you want us to read. Not wacky, crazy stuff that's underwritten by evidence. If you enjoyed this video, have a look at this one or this one. Sign up to my mailing list here so I can communicate with you directly. I say stuff in there that I can't say on here. Of course I do. Also, if you want to see me live, there's a few tickets left, particularly in Blackpool. Come see me there. It's going to be a spectacular. But more importantly than any of that stuff, please stay free.